Welcome to the deep dive. Ready to explore something amazing? Today, we're all about Johannes Vermeer, diving deep into his masterpiece, The Astronomer.
You want to go way beyond just surface level with this painting.
We're going to uncover all the secrets and stories hidden within Vermeer's brushstrokes.
This isn't just some pretty picture.
Mhm.
It's a real window into this time of just explosive scientific advancement, the Dutch Golden Age.
Right.
And trust me, this era was just buzzing with new discoveries, this incredible thirst for knowledge that Vermeer he captured it perfectly in this piece.
Totally. And right off the bat, The Astronomer just grabs you with all these rich details. Okay, so we've got our astronomer, obviously front and center. But then you notice that celestial globe. There's this huge book lying open right there on the table, and then even a painting on the wall behind him. Makes you wonder, what's the significance of these objects? Why did Vermeer pick those?
It's like Vermeer's leaving us clues,
Yeah.
like little breadcrumbs, inviting us to figure out the mystery of this astronomer and his world.
I like that.
Take the globe, for instance. It's not just any old globe. Experts believe that it's actually modeled after one crafted by Jodocus Hondius,
Who is that?
only the biggest rock star in the world of 17th century globe making.
Wow. So even back then, they had like specialists for everything. I guess some things never change. But it makes you think about the detail, the precision that went into scientific equipment back then, right?
Absolutely.
Like every tool was like a work of art on top of its function.
Totally. And speaking of art disguised as scientific tools, let's talk about that book.
Okay, yeah.
That's a 1621 edition of Institutiones Astronomicae Geographicae by Adrian Mitius.
Try saying that 3 times fast.
I know, right?
But anyway, who was he?
Oh, only a leading astronomer of his time.
Wow. So we're looking at a 17th century astronomy textbook here. What can you tell us?
It's wild, but it's not just any random chapter that's open. It's flipped to book 3, which dives into this whole idea of seeking divine inspiration through studying the cosmos.
Hold on, you're saying they're seeking divine inspiration in a science textbook. That's kind of wild, right? Like, we think of those two things as being at odds, science and religion, especially as we moved into the Enlightenment. But Vermeer, he's saying something different.
He is. You see, during the Dutch Golden Age, there wasn't this hard line between science and faith. Lots of scientists during Vermeer's time, they saw their work as like totally complementary to their beliefs.
Really?
They believed that by studying the universe, they were essentially understanding God's creation, getting closer to God.
So it's like they were trying to find God in the stars and in their science books. We see it right there in the book itself. It's encouraging astronomers to seek inspiration from God. I mean, that's not something you find in a modern textbook.
Right.
So is there anything else in the painting that speaks to this idea, this kind of blurring the lines between science and religion?
Well, we can't forget about that other painting, seemingly insignificant, but it's hanging right there on the wall behind the astronomer. It depicts a finding of Moses, and that whole story is about discovering knowledge and enlightenment. So you could definitely interpret it as a metaphor for the whole scientific process.
I see what you mean. Okay, so we have our astronomer literally surrounded by all these objects, a globe representing this massive universe, a book merging science and faith, and this painting. It's all about the quest for knowledge. It's like Vermeer is giving us this little glimpse into the intellectual life during the Dutch Golden Age. So was this a common theme in Dutch art back then, this tension between like scientific pursuit and religion?
That's such a good question, and it really speaks to the greater context that Vermeer was working within. Because you're right, this might just seem like a simple portrait, at first glance, but when you look closer, it's reflecting this huge conversation that was happening in 17th century Holland.
Wow.
And it's a conversation we're going to unpack even further when we come back.
It really makes you think, all that symbolism, all that meaning baked into this seemingly simple portrait. But now I gotta know, who is this mystery astronomer? Did Vermeer use a real person as his model?
That's the question that's been driving art historians crazy for like centuries. But there's a theory, a fascinating theory, that maybe, just maybe, the model for the astronomer is actually Antony van Leeuwenhoek.
Wait, Van Leeuwenhoek, that name rings a bell.
Yeah.
Wasn't he a Dutch scientist? The microscope guy?
That's the one, a total pioneer in microbiology.
Yeah.
He built his own microscopes.
Wow.
Incredibly powerful. And he made these groundbreaking discoveries about like bacteria, blood cells, even the tiny creatures swimming around in pond water.
Wow. Talk about opening up a whole new world. Okay, so how does this microscope master end up, as our astronomer?
Well, if you look closely, The Astronomer actually looks super similar to another Vermeer painting. The Geographer, it's called.
Okay.
Both paintings, you've got this solitary figure, right? Bathed in that really distinctive Vermeer light. And there's this shared contemplative mood.
Hmm.
And because of those similarities, a lot of art historians believe that the model in the Geographer, it's Van Leeuwenhoek, too.
Oh, wow. So what you're saying is these two paintings are like companion pieces,
Okay.
like two sides of the same coin. One's showing us the vastness of space, the other the intricacies of this microscopic world, and both possibly featuring the same guy. This guy driven by curiosity about, well, everything.
Exactly. And get this, in 2017, a study took a really close look at the canvases of both paintings. You know what they found? The Astronomer, the Geographer, they were cut from the same bolt of material.
No way. That's like art history CSI.
Right. It's like finding the smoking gun, or I guess the smoking paintbrush. This is pretty strong evidence that Vermeer, he painted these two works around the same time and that they were always meant to be connected.
This is so cool. It's like Vermeer is making us think about how everything is connected, the big things and the small things. On the one hand, space, this big unknown thing, but then on the other hand, this whole universe hidden just beneath our fingertips.
And at the center of it all, it's that human need to know, that drive to understand. But you know what?
What?
Just like the Astronomer in the painting, this artwork has been on its own journey through time. And it's had some crazy adventures along the way.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I read something about the Astronomer being stolen by Nazis during World War II. That's insane.
It is.
Especially for a painting that started out in this quiet artist's studio. Tell me everything about this painting's journey.
Oh, get ready. This is a good one. So we can trace its ownership all the way back to 1713. It popped up in an art sale in Rotterdam.
Okay.
From there, it was sold a bunch of times, different collectors, you know how it is. But eventually it ends up with the Rothschild family.
They were big-time art collectors, right?
It's huge. Some of the best collections in the world. So for a while there, it seemed like the Astronomer, it found a good home. It was in the hands of people who truly appreciated it.
Right.
But then, history happened.
World War II.
Exactly. Nazis occupied France and immediately started looting. They wanted all of Europe's treasures.
It's crazy how systematic they were about it. Like it was their plan all along.
Oh, absolutely. And they had a special task force. They called it the Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg. Their only job was to steal art.
From museums, private collections.
Everywhere. And, it's heartbreaking to think about, but they especially targeted Jewish families like the Rothschilds. And in all that chaos, the Astronomer, it got caught up in the middle of it all. And to make matters worse, it still bears the scars of that time, literally.
What do you mean?
The Nazis, they stamped a small swastika right on the back of the canvas.
They marked it.
Yep, to keep track of their stolen goods. It's this chilling, chilling reminder.
Ugh, that's just awful. This beautiful piece of art forever marked by hate. But I'm really hoping that it found its way back home eventually.
It did, thankfully. After the war, the Astronomer went right back to the Rothschild family. And then in 1983, the French government bought it.
Oh.
It's been at the Louvre Museum ever since.
Wow, what a journey. I mean, this painting has seen it all. A quiet studio in 17th century Delft, Nazi-occupied Paris, and now one of the most famous museums on Earth. This painting, it's like a silent witness to history.
Isn't that amazing? And despite everything, the changes in ownership, the theft, the war, the Astronomer, it's still this powerful piece of art.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, what are all the other stories hidden within those brushstrokes? If only it could talk.
Right. Imagine the stories it could tell. But, even without words, the Astronomer speaks volumes.
It really does.
And that's something we can dig into even further when we come back.
We've been talking about all the historical details and the hidden symbols and everything.
Right.
But I keep thinking about the main theme of this painting, this need to understand the world,
Totally.
to unlock its secrets.
Yeah.
Vermeer he got that,
He really did.
It makes you wonder, what would Vermeer think about science today? Like in the 21st century? If you were going to paint the Astronomer now, what would it look like?
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
Okay, so instead of that celestial globe, maybe our modern astronomer is surrounded by computer screens, right?
Oh, yeah.
Analyzing data from the James Webb Telescope,
Yeah.
looking at the edges of the universe.
Or even more than that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not just looking out at the stars, but looking inward, too.
Right.
at the tiniest things.
Yeah.
Like instead of a telescope, our astronomer is using the superpowered microscope,
Yeah.
unlocking the secrets inside a single cell.
Or both. That's what's so cool about science now, right?
Yeah.
It's all so interconnected. Astronomers are studying, like, tiny particles in meteorites, and that tells them about how the solar system was formed.
Wow.
And then you've got microbiologists. They're looking out into space, too,
Really?
wondering if there's life on other planets. It's this connection, this level of, I mean, Vermeer couldn't even imagine it.
That's a great point. So our modern astronomer wouldn't just be focused on one tiny area.
Right.
They'd be this symbol of like interdisciplinary thinking, bringing everything together.
Exactly. And you know what else? With all the technology and advancements we have, some things never change.
What do you mean?
Well, just like in Vermeer's time,
Yeah.
we still look at the universe and our place in it,
Yeah.
and we still feel that awe, that wonder.
It's true. Even with everything we know now, scientifically,
Right.
there are still so many mysteries out there.
Absolutely.
Will
Yeah.
we ever really understand, like, all of space?
Right.
Where did life come from?
Yeah.
What even is consciousness?
It's the big stuff.
These questions have been around for centuries,
Forever.
and now they're still pushing science forward.
Exactly. It's like, even with all the answers we find, we just have more questions.
Right.
More mysteries. We just want to know more.
And isn't that really what it's all about? That search for knowledge to
Right.
see what's over the horizon?
It's what makes us human.
It is. That's what Vermeer captured in The Astronomer. Not just a 17th century scientist, any scientist.
Any person, really.
It's about that human curiosity.
Beautifully put. And that's a spirit, that's still burning bright,
It really is.
inspiring new artists and scientists.
And on that note, we'll leave you all to ponder these big questions.
Keep searching.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Vermeer's The Astronomer.